Hello there, this is Den's shed. I'm Den and this is the shed. This is the battery car I've just restored, if you can call it that. Some of you may have seen it last year in one of my videos. It's had the body put on since, and also the loom done properly, and lots of other features I've added to it. Last year was just a test really. So here's a few features that it didn't have before. Well, what once was an electric car is now a petrol car, doing it the right way around, I think. Instead of where we once had the voltmeter, we have a speedo. Don't know if you can see that. Various lights, choke control, and I've tried to keep all the controls the same as the electric car. So we have the old granny throttles here, and the brake is pulling this down, which works the cables, which used to be an old manual caliper. Now the cables go to a hydraulic disc, which is far better, as we're not doing 4 miles an hour anymore and doing a lot more acceleration and speed. Right, let's get to the guts of it. Hidden underneath the seat, where you can't see it, is the Honda clone. Just a moment, I'll get rid of this. I'm working one-handed, do forgive me. Right, so we have a Honda clone here. I've forgotten the make now, but it's basically a copy of the GX200, is it? 6.5 horsepower engine. And added to that we have the wet clutch gearbox, 2-to-1 reduction. If I can get this done with one hand, I'll show you that too. Which I very much doubt. There we go. So, where once was the electric motor and battery, we have the GX200, sorry. Red clutch gearbox in there, and the original chain and sprockets, though somewhat modified from the electric car. 12-volt gel battery there, leading into my custom loom. If you can see that, there's a termination block and various other bits and bobs. This is the electric start motor as well, which I insisted on having because I think they're brilliant. A few mods, obviously the exhaust so the body can close over it, and the K&N filter because it gets in the way of the seat. It only just clears the fuel tank by about a cigarette paper clearance. Okay, a few other mods. Disc brake. There we go, from a standard go-kart setup. I've squeezed in there. It's not as effective as I'd like it to be, but it'll do for now, I think. There's the original pull starter, and then we have a box there for the components for the engine. Right, as to the rest of it. We've added a speedo, which I'm pretty sure is accurate due to my marvellous calculations. So if you see down there, there is a pulley with rubber rollers using O-rings, driving a Kawasaki speedo drive, which is counter-rotating, geared down, which goes from a Kawasaki speedo drive into a Kawasaki cable to an extension I made to a Thomas moped speedometer and a cable from God knows what. Put it all together and it sort of works. She skips along at a grand old 22 and a bit miles an hour. And it shows about 24, so it's not far off. Right, it has the original electrics spliced into the Honda clone, so now we have a charging circuit also, an electric start. Now I'm not going to do that today because it's a two-handed job to get it to start, as it won't do without the choke. But I'll do a few more videos later on with another test drive and its completion. One minor problem I've noticed, with all the abuse I've given it, the cheap nasty wheelbarrow tyres I put on have now burst, as you can see. They're going through an awful lot of stress. This wheel has the brakes on it. It has a differential, which is the work of an absolute genius. Those of you who have ever seen these things in bits. The differential I didn't think would take the power, so I thought I'd try it first, and it worked marvellously. I thought if it failed I'd go for a solid axle or something like it. But it's keeping up rather well when you consider it's meant for 4 miles an hour. There's an old granny driving, and now it's doing about sort of 22 miles an hour, and some fat bastard like me driving it. But anyway, it's dealing with it rather well. So you're driving on both wheels, so it doesn't tear the lawn up too badly, but you're braking on only one. I'd rather not go into that right now and why. It's a bit too tight to get anything more shoehorned into this thing. So consequently this tyre's blown out first. And these tyres are about £3 each on eBay. They've lasted a little while, but yeah, they were old when I put them on. I slightly perished, and this one's let go there. So the plan, before I make a better video of this thing being hammered around a garden, I invested in some electric wheelchair tyres, which are really thick and really good quality, even if they were made in China. And hopefully I can get these things on. They're a lot harder than the ones I've got on there. So, fingers crossed there. Right, as to the rest of it, the engine came off eBay, £133, electric start is amazing. The wet box clutch came separately, that was £99. Married up nicely. The frame has been reinforced from the original car. I don't know if you can see the tubes there doubled up where I'm pointing. Some thick gauge box section runs the entire length for 3 members of the car. So we've got 2 inch by 1 there and 1 inch by 1 either side to stiffen up the chassis, to take the extra load. Even if it was strong enough before, it's got quite a bit of rust on it now. It's 30 plus years old, I think. Original axle. And oh yes, the electric start is an absolute gem. Even added some brake lights to the original setup and loom. All goes together quite nicely. So I've just got to get the new tyres on before I make another vid. And as you can see, it has the appearance, once the seat's on, of the original machine. So hopefully I can drive around on the pavement without getting locked up. I've done alright so far. Right, that wraps it up for now. See you again.